A little boy had a homework assignment where he had to find the difference between hypothetically and realistically, so he asked his dad. The dad said, "Well, son, go ask your mom if she would sleep with the mailman for $1,000,000. He went and asked his mom and came back and he said, "Mom said yes." The dad said, "Go ask your sister the same question." So he went and asked her and came back and he said, "She said yes." The dad said, "Okay, now go ask your brother the same question." He went and asked and came back and he said, "He said yes too." The dad said, "Well, hypothetically, we're sitting on $3,000,000. Realistically, we live with 3 whores." 4 men are in the hospital waiting room because their wives are having babies. A nurse goes up to the first guy and says, "Congratulations, you're a father of twins." The man says, "That's a crazy coincidence. I work for the Minnesota Twins." The nurse says to the second guy, "Congratulations, you're the father of triplets." The man says, "That's a crazy coincidence. I work for the 3M company." The nurse tells the third guy, "Congratulations, you're the father of quadruplets." The man says, "That's a strange coincidence. I work for the Four Seasons Hotel." The last man is freaking out and banging his head against the wall. The nurse asked him, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" He said, "No, I'm screwed. I work for 7-Up." A man walks up to a bartender and says, "I bet you $5,000 I can pee in a cup across your bar without missing." The bartender doesn't think this is possible, so he takes the bet. So the man starts peeing and the pee goes all over the bar. It even goes over the bartender, but nowhere near the cup. So the bartender starts cheering, knowing he just won $5,000. So the man walks over to his friend, then walks over to the bartender and pays him his $5,000. The bartender asks him, "Why are you so happy? You just lost $5,000. "Well, I bet my friend $10,000 that I could pee all over your bar and you would still cheer." A lawyer sits next to a blonde on a plane, and he really wants her to notice him, but she shows no interest. The lawyer's not used to being rejected, so he says, "Let's play a game. We go back and forth and ask each other questions, and if you don't know the answer, you give the person $5. The blonde isn't interested, and she declines. After 20 minutes of silence, the lawyer says, "Okay, let's play the same game, but if you miss a question, you give me $5. If I miss a question, I give you $300. The blonde is intrigued by the money, and she agrees. The lawyer smiles and asks her, "What's the weight of the moon?" The blonde says, "I don't know," and gives him $5. And then she asked him, "What goes up with 2 legs and comes down with 3? The lawyer doesn't know the answer to the question, but he doesn't want to admit it, so he spends the rest of the flight trying to figure it out. During this time, the blonde naps in peace. When the plane lands, the lawyer hands the blonde $300. As they're getting off the plane, the lawyer runs up to her and says, "Please, what's the answer to the question?" The blonde smiles, hands him $5, and calmly walks away. A father was listening to his daughter pray, "God bless mommy, God bless daddy, God bless grandma, goodbye grandpa." "Honey, why did you say goodbye grandpa?" "I don't know, daddy, it just felt right." The next day her grandpa dies, and the father just thought it was a strange coincidence. A week later the dad was listening to his daughter pray again. "God bless mommy, God bless daddy, goodbye grandma." The next day the grandma died. The father started thinking, "Wow, my daughter must be very special." A week later he was listening to his daughter pray again. "God bless mommy, goodbye daddy." He started freaking out and couldn't sleep all night. He left early and went to his office. He was nervous all day and kept watching the clock. He felt safe in his office and figured if he could make it to midnight, he would be okay. Once it hit midnight, he went home. When he went home, his wife said, "I've never seen you work so late. What's the matter?" "I had the worst day of my life." "Yeah, well, my day was worse. The mailman dropped dead on our porch." A young boy enters a barber shop and the barber whispers to his customer, "This is the dumbest kid in the world. Watch while I prove it to you." The barber puts $1 in one hand, 2 quarters in the other, and calls the boy over and asks, "Which one do you want?" The young boy takes the quarters and leaves. The barber tells his customer, "What did I tell you? That kid never learns." The customer leaves and sees the same young boy walking out the ice cream store. He walks up to the young boy and asks him, "Why did you take the quarters instead of the dollar bill?" The young boy looks at him, smiles, and says, "Because the day I take the dollar bill, the game is over." A blind guy enters a bar and orders a drink. After sitting there for a while, he yells towards the bartender, "Hey, do you want to hear a blonde joke?" The bar immediately becomes quiet, and in a husky deep voice, the woman next to him says, "Before you tell that joke, you should know something. The bartender is blonde, the bouncer is blonde, and I'm a 6-foot-tall, 200-pound blonde with a black belt in karate. Even more, the fella sitting next to me is blonde and he's a weightlifter. Lastly, the woman to your right is blonde and she's a pro wrestler. Think about it, mister. Do you still want to tell that blonde joke?" The blind man says, "No, not if I'm going to have to explain it 5 times. Mother asks her sons, "What do you guys want for breakfast?" One son says, "I'll have some fucking pancakes." And she gets mad and says, "Go to your room." She looks at the other son and says, "What do you want for breakfast?" And he says, "I sure as hell don't want the fucking pancakes." I told my wife, "I think you're drawing your eyebrows too high." And she looked at me really surprised. A couple is walking down the road when they see a drunk man dancing. The wife says, "Look at that drunk man over there." The husband asks, "Who is he?" The wife says, 10 years back, he proposed to me and I rejected him. The husband smiles and says, "Oh my god, he's still celebrating." My wife packed my bags and said, "You need to leave, we're done." As I was walking out the door, I heard her scream, "I wish you a slow and painful death, you bastard." I looked at her and said, "What, now you want me to stay?" A man tells his date, "I work with animals." And she said, "I love a man that cares about animals. Where do you work?" And with a grin on his face, he said, "I'm a butcher." The other day, my wife asked me, "Can you pass me my lipstick?" And I accidentally passed her the glue stick. She's still not talking to me. Anytime I'm at a wedding, my older relatives will tease me and say, "You're next." So I started going up to them at funerals and doing the same thing. I was at my therapist and he said, "Don't worry, time heals all wounds." So I got up and stabbed him. Several men are in the locker room of a golf club when a cell phone rings. One of the men answers it, puts it on speaker, and everybody stops to listen. "Hello? Honey, it's me. Are you at the club?" "Yes. I'm at the mall right now and I found this beautiful leather coat. It's only $1,000. Can I get it?" "Sure, go ahead if you like it that much." I also stopped by the Porsche dealership and saw the new 2021 models. I saw one I really liked. "How much is it?" $200,000. "Okay, but for that price, I want the one with all the options." "That's great. Oh, one more thing. The house I liked last year is back on the market for $950,000. "Okay, then go ahead and give them an offer of $900,000. They'll probably take it. If they don't, we'll give them the extra $50,000 if you really want the house." "Okay, baby. I'll see you later. I love you so much." "Bye, honey. Love you too." The man hangs up the phone. The other men in the locker room are staring at him with astonishment. The man turns to them and says, "Does anyone know who this phone belongs to?" Two friends are out in the woods hunting when one of them suddenly collapses. He's not breathing and his eyes start rolling into the back of his head. His other friend starts panicking, pulls out his phone, and calls 911. He yells at the operator, "I think my friend is dead. What can I do?" The operator says, "Sir, I need you to calm down. First, let's make sure he's dead." It's silent for a moment and then the operator hears a loud gunshot. Rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta! The man picks the phone back up and says, "Now what?" A man is having a hard time finding a parking spot when he starts to pray. "Oh Lord, if you can help me find a parking spot, I promise I'll stop drinking and I'll start going to church." Out of nowhere, the sun shines on an empty parking spot and without any hesitation he says, "Never mind, I just found one." A doctor tells his patient he only has 10 to live. The patient says, 10 what? 10 weeks? 10 months? The doctor says, 9, 8. Two friends are driving home when one friend says, "Hey, can you check if my indicator lights are working?" So the other friend sticks his head out the window and he says, "Yes, no, yes, no." I was on a bus yesterday when I suddenly realized I had to pass gas. The music was really loud, so I tried to time my farts with the beats. After a couple songs, I started to feel better until I looked up and realized everybody was looking at me. Then I remembered I was listening to music through my headphones. I'm never riding this bus again. A man goes to a bar and gets so drunk he pukes all over himself. He starts panicking because he thinks his wife is going to leave him because of this. A man at the bar tells him, "Just tell your wife somebody else puked on you and they put $20 in your shirt pocket to cover the cleaning." The man thinks that's a great idea and decides to give it a try. The guy makes it home and goes straight to the bathroom to get cleaned up. His wife finds the dirty clothes with vomit all over them and goes to confront him. She asked him, "What is all this?" He said, "Some guy puked all over me and gave me $20 for the cleaning bill. It should still be there. Go ahead and check it." The wife pulls some cash out of his pocket and she says, "Honey, there's $40 in here." The man is confused for a second and then he says, "Oh yeah, that same guy, he crapped in my pants." Four men are at a high school reunion catching up when one of them had to go to the bathroom. The other three start talking about how successful their sons are. "My son is so successful. He owns a car dealership and just gave his best friend a Ferrari." "That's nothing. My son owns an airliner and just gave his best friend a private jet." "Yeah, well, my son is more successful than that. He owns an architectural firm and he just gave his best friend his own castle." The fourth guy comes back from the bathroom and asks, "What are you guys talking about?" "Oh, we're talking about how successful our sons are." "Well, my son is a gay stripper." "Wow, you must be disappointed with what he's done with his life." "Actually, he's doing pretty well for himself. He just got a Ferrari, a jet, and a castle from his 3 boyfriends." A boy and a girl are talking and the boy says, "I hate this new principal. He's so dumb." The girl says, "Do you know who I am? I'm the principal's daughter." So the boy replies, "Do you know who I am?" She said, "No." And he says, "Good," and walks away. One day a teacher asked the class, "Anyone who thinks they're stupid, please stand up." One little boy stands up and the teacher asked him, "Why do you think you're stupid?" And he said, "I don't. I just hate to see you standing there alone." I walked up to my wife and said, "I have a problem." She said, "No, we have a problem. We're married and we're a couple. Your problem is my problem." Overwhelmed with relief, I said, "You know what? It's hardly worth mentioning now." But she insisted on knowing what the problem is, so I had to explain to her that we got her sister pregnant. A woman wakes up in the middle of the night to realize her husband's not in bed with her, so she puts on her slippers and goes downstairs to look for him. She finds him sitting at the kitchen table, and he appears to be in deep thought, staring at the wall. She watches as he wipes a tear from his eyes, and she said, "What's the matter, honey? Why are you down here at this time of night?" The husband looks away from the wall and says, "It's the 20th anniversary of when we met, honey." The wife can't believe he remembers, and she starts to tear up. The husband says, "Do you remember 20 years ago when we started dating? I was 18 and you were only 15? With a smile on her face, the wife says, "Yes, I remember." The husband says, "Do you remember when your father caught us in the backseat of my car?" With a confused look on her face, she says, "Yeah, I remember." "Do you remember when you shoved a shotgun in my face and said, 'You either marry my daughter or I'll make sure you spend the next 20 years in prison'?" The wife is embarrassed and she softly says, "Yeah, I remember that." The husband wipes another tear from his cheek and he says, "I would have gotten out today."